Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a good evening to you. It is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock, and of course at midnight, as ever, it is your chance to talk back. And that is what I hope you're going to do about my topic, which, as I told Peter, it is going to be about welfare and defence. And the reason those two are linked together is because Kemi Badenoch now, the opposition leader, is suggesting, or more than suggesting, is saying that actually welfare has to be cut. It must be cut, particularly sickness benefit, must be cut in order to fund defence. And although some people are saying that the Russian ship that we'll be talking about later, firing warning shots across the bows of a yacht in the English Channel, is nothing to do with the Shadow Fleet and the Brits landing on the Shadow Fleet and taking it. So it's got nothing to do with that. Lots of people are urging caution in trying to link the two together. What is for sure is that tensions are rising, and we know there's reports every day that Russia could be as few as 3 years away from mounting a campaign against Europe and against Britain. And our defence stocks are woeful. There was a select committee today where there were lots of people with lots of badges sitting in front of the Lords saying, we don't have the money, we don't have the money, we don't have the defence, we are absolutely in trouble, we don't have missiles, we don't have anything to protect us from attacks like that, because we've sat back on our heels for so long. Believing that the world would not change. And of course it has changed, and it's changed beyond recognition just in the last 5 years in terms of geopolitics anyway. So looking at the state of this country, something has got to give. If not the welfare bill, then it'll have to be pensions, because those are the two biggest, well, it's part of the same bill, but those are two of the biggest spends that we have in this country. Or the NHS. Should the NHS be cut in order to fund defence? Or do you believe that actually what we should be doing to increase defence spending is taxing more? Because the budget's coming up, isn't it? We're going to see the budget in October. And Rachel Reeves has already said we're going to have to level more taxes in order to pay for defence. So which is fair? What is fair? Is it fair to cut welfare? Is it fair to cut pensions? Is it fair to cut the NHS or any other big spend? Or do we just tax more? Because one of them is going to have to be the reality. Something is going to have to give. So what do you think has got to give? Or maybe you don't think we need to spend more on our defence budget. And I'd love to hear why you believe that that's the case. But maybe you think that actually, as we've done for many years, we've borrowed from Peter to pay Paul, and Peter happens to be the the defence budget, and Paul happens to be everything else. So I'd be interested to know what you think, which way we should go. The Tories are in no doubt. They say it has to be welfare. Do you think that that's where we need to start being brutal? We need to start cutting in order that we can defend this country? Give me a call. Really want to hear from you about this, particularly if you are on welfare, particularly if you are on disability payments or PIP payments or anything like that. Do you think that it is time, really, we've got to grasp the nettle, or just tax working people more? Simple as that. 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we do, of course, call you back. And text the word talk and then your message to 87222. Let me tell you what else is coming up in the programme. At 11 o'clock, Phil Dave will be joining us to go through the papers. So he'll be with us for that hour and talking about the story of the day. Rachel Morris will be joining us. She's a gold-winning Paralympian and disability campaigner, talking about the idea here of cutting welfare benefits for the defence budget. So we'll be chatting to her about that. Paul Beaver joins us, the defence analyst and author. He's absolutely brilliant, and he'll be talking to us about what's going on with Russia, especially on the high seas. So all of that is to come. But first, of course, the G7 meeting is in full swing in Evian, and leaders have been discussing the end of the war in Iran. US President Donald Trump has insisted that the Strait of Hormuz will stay open, toll-free, under the deal he struck with Iran. It has to be said that coming out of Tehran is a very different story. He says that the Strait will be open and all the boats can go through now. They can all go through. But of course, nobody's going to move their boats or their huge tankers without more assurances than Donald Trump saying, "No, it's fine, off you go." The content of the Memorandum of Understanding has not been revealed yet, but it's understood that it will allow Tehran to immediately resume selling its oil, a provision considered a massive concession in Washington. And the price of oil has fallen again, as a barrel of Brent crude is now below the $80 for the first time since early March. So we're all hoping, aren't we, that this drop in oil prices, the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, will alleviate the pressure on us, as petrol now is, I think, $1.55 and diesel $1.75 a litre. So all of those things, and of course what's happening to winter fuel, with what will happen with our fuel in the winter, the costs, interest rates, all of those things that are affecting us deeply. Even flights that you might want to take in the summer for your holidays could be impacted. So where is the truth here? Donald Trump said it's open, it's just, just bring on the oil, that everything is absolutely fine. He's sorted out the problem that, let's be honest, he caused. So let's talk now to Lauriane Larocco, who is a global supply chains, trade and maritime logistics expert at Larocco Consulting. And you can find her, find Lauriane as an author on Substack. It's good to see you again, Lauriane. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. So is there jubilation across the fleet of the thousands of boats and tankers that are waiting to get out of the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, there's definitely jubilation that they want to get out, but the question is, no one's leaving. Thanks for having me back on, Petrie. When I spoke with Kepler, which is one of the many maritime tracking tools that are out there, when I spoke with one of their team members, only 10 vessels have left the Strait of Hormuz or gone through since Sunday, when, the president said it's open, let oil flow. The fact is there is no communication. I've spoken with vessel owners. They do not want to jeopardize the lives of their seafarers when there is no plan and the strait is still filled with mines.
So what are they waiting for? What do they need to hear or to see in order to trust that what Donald Trump is saying is the correct version?
They need to see action. There's a lot of bluster, as you pointed out earlier in the show, between both Iran and the United States. And the fact is, we have not seen the memorandum of understanding. We've heard the term peace deal. It is not a peace deal. This is a 60-day memorandum of understanding for chatting, for discussing. They want to have a plan. And the reason why is when you look at the Strait of Hormuz, it's only 22 feet wide. You have 130
22
vessels
miles.
that
Sorry.
miles. Thank you, miles. Thank you for correcting me. Whoa, what a day. 22 miles, and you get about 130 vessels a day that traverse, right, both ways, and so you need coordination. You have around 2,000 vessels in totality that are trapped, and so based on math, you need to have time and coordination to have those vessels go through. The problem, though, is if you transit at night. Now, when it comes to the mines and the laying of the mines at the hands of Iran, there are mines that you could see above the water, and there are mines that are underneath. And the problem is, if you transit at night, you cannot see either of those mines, particularly the ones that are floating out there. And they do not have the technology of a military vessel that can detect these mines. And so that's the biggest sticking point is how are you going to clear this? And more importantly, United States, how are you going to help us create this plan? The IMO was on BBC yesterday as well, talking about the need for a plan to get these thousands of vessels like in a queue, right? So they could safely go through this very narrow passage.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you that because it can't be a free for all, right? I mean, the strait is anything but straight, ironically, and you can't just have all these ships heading to the same that pinch point, the huge pinch point that is the Strait of Hormuz. So, is there an expectation that CENTCOM, that America will come up with a plan saying all ships starting with the number XYZ will be first, or those who have been waiting the longest will be first? Because if you're just saying, look, just come through, that doesn't sound like a plan.
No, it's definitely not a plan. And I have actually reached out to CENTCOM. I reached out yesterday, asking like, what is the plan in terms of communicating whatever message it may be? Like, you don't have to tell me per se what the plan is, but do you have a plan to talk to the vessel owners? And I have spoken with vessel owners who have, vessels trapped, and they have not heard. And so it takes days also to position these vessels because they move so slowly. So it's not like that you could even like rev your engines and get going. It takes days to get there, depending on where you are in the strait. And it takes hours to go through that very narrow passage.
What I find extraordinary, Laurianne, is the markets. The markets are normally literally on the money, right? The markets, you watch the markets and you think, OK, so that's either a good thing or a bad thing. It feels to me, and I used to do markets programs years ago, but it feels to me that they're a little bit optimistic, a little bit preemptive in this quite a big drop in the price of oil. I mean, I'm not complaining, but I can only imagine that when they realise the enormity of this, those prices are going to go back up. Am I wrong in looking at it in that way? Because I've been very surprised to see the oil drop so quickly.
No, I mean, I agree with you in terms of it's too Pollyannish to say, yay, it's going to be open. Like, you have to define open. Not only do you have to get all these vessels that were stuck out of there, you've got vessels that are in other parts of the world that are no longer there, that can take in upwards of 45 to 50 days to get to the Middle East to fill up. You also don't know the vitality of the refining and the plumbing, if you will, over in the Middle East, because Iran bombed Saudi Arabia, Iran bombed UAE. Their refineries, their pipelines will have to be fixed, and then LNG is down in terms of overall capacity for 3 to 5 years after Qatar got that tremendous hit from Iran several months ago. And so there's a massive disconnect of, yes, it'll be open, but the supply the supply is still going to be constrained for many, many months, and the hole in the bucket will still be there. And so that's where the disconnect is.
The other thing that, again, if I can use your term, is a little Pollyanna-ish, is to expect this, this MOA to hold this memorandum of understanding, because it does seem that there's a lot to be hashed out yet, and Iran now knows that it can strangle the world easily with one foot and its hands tied behind its back. It's not a problem. They've learnt that lesson. That's one thing they didn't know they could do before this happened. What about the trust that shipping owners and transport companies would have in Iran not doing this again, whenever it felt like it, whenever it felt things weren't going its way, even beyond the 60 days that we're talking about for this memorandum of understanding?
There is no trust. In all honesty, the tankers that I've spoken with, the logistics operators, they know, everyone has warned past presidents that this could happen. And it happened. And now that they know that they can do it with just simply using drones at this point, it just shows you the fragility of trade. And they can do it anytime. And then the toll system. There's so much rhetoric out there that we do not know. We're trying to get back to status quo. This is something that never happened. The freedom of trade has been strangled, and it's been held hostage by Iran for months. And it's going to continue because of that trickle down effect. Like, you're talking about inflation, over in the UK, and we have it here. There's a saying within logistics, I call it inflation brewing in the warehouse. And so even if everything gets fixed in, say, the next 6 to 9 months, we're going to still have high prices well into next year, because the products that are being made for the spring are going to be made their orders are going to be in July. And that's based on all the raw material products that are sky high right now. And I've been told by retailers they're going to increase prices for 2027. So we're going to still have this knock-on effect for a very, very long time.
With Iran, you mentioned the tolls there, and this would be illegal if they decided they were going to charge tolls. And people say, yes, but in Panama and Suez, yes, they do, but that's because they are man-made. This is open ocean. This doesn't belong to anybody, right? And so for anybody to start charging tolls would be an illegal maritime move. However, the messaging on that is totally contradictory. Iran is going to say, well, look, we need to rebuild our country, and we want to, this is ours now. We will manage the strait. Now, what does that mean to companies, to, inflation, to prices, if that were to go ahead? And also, I can't imagine that the Gulf states will tolerate that from Iran, which is another pinch point for potentially more aggression.
Exactly. This is unprecedented what we saw. Iran did indeed, charge passage, through their waterway using cryptocurrency. So, they have profited off of this. And then the other thing too is when you're looking at the Iranian oil sanctions, when we had them temporarily lifted, it helped lower the price of oil because it's a mental note. But it already has buyers. Those barrels are already destined for China and for India. So it's not like those extra barrels are going to go to additional countries that need it, because a lot of these vessels that are carrying this oil, they're very old, and so there's so much, and we've talked about this before. Proper insurance companies have to, and proper banks have to approve these types of transits, and it's very scary, because if this happens, the other natural waterways in other countries, they could start charging as well. And then what will happen is you and I are going to pay for it in the end, because it's always passed on. Logistics costs are always passed on.
So what are we looking at here, Lorianne, in terms of Donald Trump wanting it to go one way and the reality of the situation. Let's say that everything goes perfectly. Let's be Pollyanna. Let's say that it is going to be, the memorandum of understanding is going to be agreed to. Israel is going to leave Lebanon. Iran's going to be happy with that. They're not going to charge a toll. You know, in this fantasy world of mine, how long does it take to not just clear the backlog of the Strait of Hormuz, but to get other ships, as you were saying, 40 to 45 days in some cases, to get other ships to start the process of going back in there, picking up oil, coming out, picking up oil, coming out. Let's imagine that the world is as it was on the 27th of February. How long would it take to clear those? Was it 2,000, about 2,000 ships that are there?
Well, I mean, if you look at the math, like at 135 passings a day, right? You might get a little bit more if you can. You know, it's going to take months to clear those vessels out because they've got to get out, and those vessels have to be maintained because a lot of barnacle growth is most likely at the bottom of those vessels because they haven't moved. And there's also safety procedures, and a lot of these vessels, they're every 6 months they're checked. And so a lot of these vessels also have to look at, you know, their ratings and the security to see, like, how are they? Are they all right? Do they need to be tuned up? But then also you have to have the refineries. A lot of the refineries also pulled back in production because there weren't vessels, you know, to come in to get filled up. That takes time. That definitely takes time. So if you don't do it correctly, you could really harm the infrastructure permanently of that refinery. So in all said, I mean, you're looking at maybe like 9 months to a year in terms of really seeing it hum again. But like I said before, LNG is not. It's definitely not going to because of the fact that you know you had the extensive damage done to that plant. The LNG is coming from the United States, but again, that adds the travel time for the product to be going. But it's just very unfortunate that we're here because you know when it comes to the chemicals, the chemical shortage is very, very real. The bunker fuel shortage is real. The jet fuel is real, and it's going to take time for all of that to come back up. And not to mention all of these strategic oil reserves. The SPR for the United States is used a lot during times of hurricanes, which is we're in hurricane season right now. So if something goes down, we inject our SPR reserves into the system to offset that. And by September, we will be at our lowest level since the 1980s.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
And finally, Lorianne, I always like to end on the human on this. The men and women aboard these ships.
Yeah.
Last time we spoke, we talked about the desperate state that many of them are in. You know, if they get sick, there's barely anybody to go and pick them up. Has anything improved, or is it just, as I would have imagined, got worse?
It's pretty much the status quo. I mean, some owners, I was able to speak with some tanker owners when I was in Hong Kong. Some are able to get supplies to them, but they're stuck inside. So imagine being in like a tin can. You know, you can't go outside because, you know, you can get injured. And as you know, we did have some Indian seafarers that were killed because the vessel that they were on was servicing the illicit Iranian oil. Now that's on the hands of the ship owner. They know very well what they're carrying, and President Trump does what he says. I mean, like it or not, he is very, very forthcoming in those threats and things like that. But it's unfortunate that these seafarers, they're just caught in this horrible politicalization, and these tanker owner operators and the container ships and all of that, they're just stuck in this political bluster. And I don't even know by Friday if we're going to know what the real deal is, because we're still waiting. Every politician has a different version.
What's the rough cost to those tanker owners at the moment are we looking at since February? It'll be in the billions, is it?
It's definitely in the billions. I mean, and like I said, the servicing that they're going to have to do, because they're going to have all the safety checks. You know, it's unfortunate because unlike the container industry where there's extra container vessels that can kind of pick up the slack, in the tanker industry there are no extra tankers out there. And so the fleet works and it works hard. And one of the case in points is that, like, you know, Russia, they have made serious money off of this war with their dark fleet.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it just shows you that the dark fleet actually has opportunity, if you will, to pick up the slack. And that's unfortunate to the hands of the legitimate tanker owners.
It's absolutely fascinating. Lorianne, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. Lorianne LaRocco there, Global Supply Chains, Trade and Maritime Logistics Expert at LaRocco Consulting. And as I said, you can find Lorianne as an author on Substack. Quick break, back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you. And coming up at midnight, of course, is your chance to talk back. And what I want to talk to you about is the Kemi Badenoch suggestion that welfare needs to be cut in order to add to the defence budget to save the country against an attack from Russia. And look, there's a lot going on at the moment with Russia. And, you know, there was the whole thing with it was the Russians apparently who directed those fires, the arson against Keir Starmer. We know of them hanging around the cables under the ocean. They had to be warned off a couple of weeks ago from that. The shadow fleet of Russian ships that Lorianne was just mentioning there, that's making a fortune out of this war in Iran and in the Middle East and, you know, being boarded by the Brits. Then we get a Russian ship firing across the bows of a British yacht in the English Channel. Now, some people are saying that is not connected, but I think that a lot of experts would say that it is all connected. There's no such thing as coincidence, I don't think, anyway. But something's got to give, right? It has got to give. Now, either it is Rachel Reeves's plan, which is to come back and tax you and me more. Right, so workers get taxed more. Simple as that, right? That would solve the problem, would it? Or do we cut pensions? Or do we cut welfare? Or do we cut PIP? Or do we cut money to the NHS? Something's got to be cut. This is, I know we're supposed to be the sixth richest country in the world. I don't know what happens to the money, but I feel sorry for everybody else if they're beneath us, because we actually are broke. We can't afford to do anything. So what needs to go? And would you support a cut in welfare spending? Would you support a cut in PIP? That's what Kemi Badenoch is suggesting that would fill the hole for the defence budget. So give me a call. Let me know what you think should be cut. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're on benefits. You go, no, let the workers pay more. Let them pay more. Why not? They're earning. They're out. Let them pay more. 0344 499 1000. That's the number that you need. Well, we have some exciting news to share with you just before the break from our friends at talkSPORT. With the World Cup underway, talkSPORT and Meantime have teamed up to create a lager. It's called So Good Lager, which will be poured from all O'Neill pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. And you can find your nearest pub by visiting talksport.com/so good. And it got the stamp of approval from the guys who work at talkSPORT, because I saw them all drinking it the other day. 18 plus, and please drink responsibly.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you. And coming up, we're going to be talking about paying for defence of the realm, really. Let me put it this way. The UK spends more than 5 times as much on welfare and pensions as it does on defending the realm. So something's got to give. What is it to be? Give me a call, 0344 499 1000. And talking of defence of the realm, a Russian warship has fired warning shots near a UK-registered yacht in the English Channel this morning. Well, 2 vessels came into close contact between the Isle of Wight and Normandy shortly before midday. The Ministry of Defence has described the encounter as an isolated incident and not linked to the seizure of a Russian Shadow Fleet tanker in the Channel on Sunday. The Russian Defence Ministry said the yacht had been on a dangerous approach towards the warship, and its crew fired into its path with rifles after making several attempts to contact it over the radio and after launching warning flares. It has to be said that the couple that were on board the yacht at the time, which was only under sail power, they had no engine power, said they heard nothing and saw nothing until these shots were fired. Well, to analyse this and to chat about some other defence stuff is Paul Beaver, defence analyst and author. Good to see you, Paul. Thank you so much for joining me. Is the government protesting too much here by saying, well, they're not linked, there's nothing to see here, it was just one of those seafaring things?
Well, it's not one of those seafaring things, because there are certain rules that apply at sea. A steam gives way to sail, and steam means a motor ship gives way, and a ship as large as a surface combatant is perfectly capable of getting out of the way of a yacht. Most warships in the world, it's a sort of given that ships expect there to be about a 2 to 2.5 nautical mile exclusion zone around them to give them the opportunity to maneuver. For example, if they want to launch helicopters in international waters, they're perfectly entitled to do so. But there is also a standard way of doing this. So there are various radio channels. Channel 16 is the one that most people chat on. Everybody has that, even warships. Flares you fire, and they go bang, so you can get somebody's attention very quickly. But to fire live rounds at a yacht does seem rather extreme.
Some people will be also wondering, what this ship is doing in the English Channel. But this is quite commonplace, isn't it?
It is. It has a perfect right to sail through the international shipping lanes, rather like we have a perfect right to sail in the South China Sea or wherever is international waters. The Russian ship has done nothing wrong by sailing through the English Channel. And of course, we monitor it. There are two British warships, HMS Tyne and HMS Mersey, which are shadowing it. So
when you say shadowing, is that physically shadowing or?
Yeah, it's standing off at about 10 nautical miles,
Right.
perhaps more, and watching the movements, also, of course, on radar. And in the English Channel, it's got very good radar coverage, both on the British side and the French side. There's really good communications between both nations. So people will be, they'll be chatting. I mean, Dover Coast Guard will be talking to Cap Grinet on the other side. And it's quite normal. I mean, I've stood on Cap Grinet and watched Russian warships sailing by at about 12 nautical miles away. You can see them through binoculars. It's quite commonplace for anyone's warship to do that, and as long as it's a means of passage, and they're not conducting exercises, in which case they have to notify through notice to mariners. So there are all sorts of international rules and regulations, and Russia normally or has done until about 2014, scrupulously abided by them. But of course, it's slowly sliding now into a dictatorship where it really doesn't care.
I'm not a fan of coincidence, especially when it comes to defence. The Ministry of Defence described the encounter as an isolated incident and had nothing to do with that shadow vessel that was boarded by Britain. Do you buy that?
They would say that, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
I think it is undoubtedly there is a connection of some sort there. The Russians will have been deeply upset at having their tanker boarded in such a glare of publicity, and they would see this as a huge affront, and they all want to do something. Now, whether that's ordered from the Kremlin or just the captain of this warship being jingoistic, it's very, very difficult to say. It's not really an isolated incident. I mean, the Russians are known for their dangerous maneuvers. We only had at the end of last month, one of our reconnaissance aircraft in the Black Sea was very dangerously passed by a Russian fighter aircraft. I mean, this is not unusual.
So is this them pushing the envelope? Is this them just trying to prove something?
Yeah, I think it is, Petra. I think this is flexing muscles. Of course, Russia is well aware of the resignations of defense ministers here, of the call from the chief of the defense staff to say, so something's got to give. We can't go on the way we are. It leads into your discussion later. Yeah. We just don't pay enough attention or pay enough money to defense. And what we do spend on defense, we don't spend properly. I mean, we have the 5th largest defense budget in the world, and we don't have a single submarine at sea. I mean, how can that work?
Or a single defensive missile.
We don't have any defensive missiles and very few plans for them. I mean, some people have been calling for the adoption of the Israeli Iron Dome system. It's very expensive, and it isn't necessarily right for us. It's designed for smaller places like Israel, like I think Qatar is getting it as well. So it's designed for smaller countries. We need something bigger. We've always relied on our allies to have that first and second screen of anti-ballistic systems, and we've had the radars, as it were, part of a sort of a NATO agreement. But I don't think our allies in places like Poland and Germany these days are, if we don't pull our weight in other places, they're not going to necessarily want to expend their missiles, their ABMs, their anti-ballistic missile systems on our behalf.
Does it worry you, Paul, the state of the defence of this country, and is it being treated as urgent enough? Because that you can see Russia is rattling, and Putin is a singular type of chap, and if he's determined to do something, he will do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a NATO warning that Russia will invade probably the Baltic states in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
I mean, NATO takes it very seriously. We don't. We prefer to give money to nebulous things. I'm getting close to being naughty about this, but we're far too woke. We're far too interested in allowing people illegal immigrants to come to our country without thinking about what they might be in terms of the security risk. We've lost that whole Britishness about our defences. And of course, that makes us a bit of a laughing stock around the world. I mean, there used to be a time when every ocean of the world had a Royal Naval warship, because quite legitimately, not just our trade, but there are 10 overseas territories that have to be protected, and we have to be available, the warships are available for disaster relief and things. So it's a whole panoply of things. We just keep scaling back and scaling back. And it isn't just this government, it's the previous government and the coalition. Everyone thought, well, do you know, the Russians, they're probably okay. We can probably get along with them. We don't need to spend money on that. Let's spend it on grandiose schemes like HS2, the railway, and things like that. Well, you've got to get your priorities right. I tend to watch the French a lot, and I'm impressed by the way the French can do grand projets. They can do all these trains and nuclear power stations and things, and their defence, and they punch above their weight in around the world. I mean, it's fascinating. In the last year of President Macron's presidency, he's doing an amazingly good job internationally. We're just not there. We're far more worried about what people might think.
And also, we might be looking at another change in government, in Prime Minister, which is also embarrassing around the world.
Well, I think there has to be, probably, doesn't there? But then a by-election coming up, defence should be figuring. I don't know if it is in it. The defence of the realm is the first duty of any nation, any government rather. I would expect that to be taken to be maintaining the armed forces in a state of readiness. But they're talking now about things like reducing the man training days for the TA. Well, that would just mean that TA soldiers, sailors, and airmen will walk.
Yeah.
So there's no point in not being able to maintain your training and your bounty, because one of the incentives of being a reservist is your annual bounty you get for being an efficient soldier, sailor, or airman. And if that goes, I mean, we've integrated the regulars and the reservists quite well since 2012, I think it was. And everything it's getting smaller and smaller, but it was still an effective force. Now, it's just going to be demoralizing for people. Who would want to stay? It takes months to get through your medicals and things now. Because the system has been changed. Oh, I could go on, Petrie, for all night about the problems we have.
The state of our defences. And like you said, it is you know, without the defence of the realm, there is no realm, right? I mean, that is just the truth of it. It matters more than anything else. Paul, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Paul Beaver there, defence analyst and author.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it is Petrie here with you. Just a reminder that Phil Dave is coming up at the top of the hour to go through the papers. But before that, Prime Minister Keir Starmer has delayed major cuts to disability benefits after a massive rebellion, if you remember, by his own Labour MPs. The government has dropped a strict new test that would have made it much harder for people to get PIP payments, those personal independence payments, with major changes expected later in the year. However, new universal credit health payments will still face imminent cuts as the government tries to lower welfare spending. Meanwhile, the Conservatives are launching a review into sickness and disability benefits in their bid to make the system fair and affordable again, which means somebody is going to lose out. Almost 10 million working age people are categorised as disabled. That is up almost 3 million from just over a decade ago. The total welfare and social security budget is currently around £333 billion per year. It represents as the share of GDP as 10.8%, and government total spend, the share of the government's total spend at 23.6%. So, should it be cut? And if it were to be cut, how is that done fairly? Well, joining me now to discuss this is Rachel Morris, who's a gold-winning Paralympian and disability campaigner. Rachel, thank you so much for joining me. It's such a pleasure to meet you. What does this do to you when you hear these words being spoken about cutting back on, disability and health payments?
It makes me shudder, ultimately. Unfortunately, I see it at the real life end of it personally. And for a lot of the young people and families that I work with, complex needs children, children with special educational needs, there is such a need for it. And a lot of those people are not already meeting criteria in lots of really nasty cases. And yet we're also talking about cutting and taking that away from people.
Yeah, I mean, Kemi Badenoch was talking about how this system isn't fair. It doesn't work properly. I mean, it's ironic since the Tories introduced the PIP payments, but hey, memories are short in government. But it does seem extraordinary, Rachel, that we've had such a massive increase in the number of people who are now claiming disability payments. Does that concern you that Kemi's saying things like anxiety and ADHD, they should not meet the threshold of a disability payment?
Do you know, it's really, really difficult because you're, and I talk to people about it all the time, you're always going to put in a line in that sand, and then you're going to get somebody that does really well out of that cut and that line, and somebody else that just falls short of it but desperately needs it. And wherever you draw that line, it's always going to be really difficult for people. But it is incredibly difficult when there are barriers that are put in place throughout, just through the country, that mean that then people really don't get what they actually need to enable them to live. And we're not even talking about luxuries, we're not talking about other things. Even if you meet PIP, that doesn't mean you then meet necessarily wheelchair services criteria for a chair that enables you to live independently. So it's not a tick box and a one size fits all either, but it makes it really difficult. Hidden disabilities are always going to be challenging, and probably the most challenging in some ways. But equally, even if you've got no legs and you're paralysed, you still get chest tested for PIP every time when it comes up.
Yeah, that's
So
another
it's
thing.
always
The suggestion now is that rather than it being every 2 years, it's now every 3 years. But like you said, for somebody who's who's been paralysed, or somebody who's got Parkinson's, that's every 9 months at the moment. In consideration of the fact that Parkinson's doesn't really get better, sadly, and legs don't grow back, and blindness doesn't just disappear. Are they trying, do you think, Rachel, to squish everybody into this one size fits all, which is where the problem actually lies?
I do. I think you're right on that. I think that's one of the huge problems. And I think actually taking away the group that, are never going to improve or are never going to, as you say, I'm never going to grow my legs back. That group, actually, they might go up a level, potentially they might come into a lower level but go into higher, but they are never going to come out of that and fall below threshold. If you took away that amount of people and stopped those continual reassessments and the waste of time and energy and effort that's put into those, and ultimately the real knock-on stress to either parents or the individual reapplying, that would make such a big difference to the amount of people that are then going through the system all the time. And you would move that amount of people onto a system that you could manage in a much better way, I think.
Now, we do appreciate, don't we, that there are people who are blagging the system. We know that.
Absolutely.
And those people, it just makes me so angry, because what they're doing is making it harder for people like you, who are genuinely disabled, genuinely need that sort of support just to have a normal life, right? Does that make, as a disability campaigner, does that make you angry in a way that people are destroying the system from within, actually?
It makes me, it makes me so angry, seething over it. But it's such an internal sort of system, and there seem to be people that make a whole career out of becoming disabled in brackets because they learn a system and then they just play a game, and they're playing a game with my life, they're playing games with 10 million other people's lives, potentially.
I know somebody who does it, who always gets out crutches when somebody's visiting, and she's absolutely fine. I mean, she has been reported, but nothing's been done. Not by me.
And those are the frustrating, really frustrating cases. But it's a bit like people and the criteria for blue badges or criteria for wheelchair services, all of those things, there's a huge knock-on. When somebody's playing the system in that way, the knock-on is, in real terms, is into somebody's real life. And I don't know whether it's people who just people don't care. I can't understand it, but whether they don't or not, but it's become, that is a real issue within the system as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's so difficult, isn't it? Because in a lot of cases, disability is subjective, right? And depending on who the assessor is, or who's telling the story, or who it's not as simple as looking at somebody in a wheelchair and saying, right, they need to be on benefits, they can't work, because that's not the case, right? There are people, many people with disabilities who would love to be out at work, but unfortunately, again, there's prejudice and all of those things. But is that also an issue? I have MS, but I'm absolutely fine for now, right? I'm completely fine. I have relapses, I get tired, things, I can manage it. But other people at the same stage of MS as me wouldn't be as well as me. So that's, again, creates, even with a physical disability like MS, that creates a push point, doesn't it?
It completely does, and it does go back to where that threshold hits, because actually, if you write your assessment on your worst day ever, which is in theory what you're meant to do, then anyone can write their worst day ever and actually potentially skew actually what is real life, and where that lies in the sense of, what can you actually manage in life, and when is it a disability, as you say, is very subjective. But there are obviously the disabilities that meet criteria in the sense of they are registered under the Equality Act as disabilities. But then again, within that, as you say, there are people that would say, I'm absolutely categorically not disabled, or they will fight against that label for as long as they can, or they'll look at it in a different way. And that's also absolutely fine. But when you're then having a knock-on effect, say, for somebody's carers, or getting access to housing, or getting access to that bit in a physical sense further down the line, or for somebody who is struggling with autism, ADHD, who actually needs, living carers, or they need to be in supported living, those things have a real knock-on effect if they're not understood. And some of the young people I work with now who are turning 18, 19, they are in the most dire situations because they don't meet, in theory, that threshold, which I know that they do, but then there's a knock on the other way now.
Yeah.
Well,
and it's like anxiety, isn't it? I mean, one person's anxiety is manageable, and another person's anxiety is so crippling they can't leave the house. So I suppose the system would have to change to be being more personalised, but we can't afford that either.
You're right, and it does need to be more personalised, and we need to get rid of the really quite barbaric way that it's done, and the way it makes you feel is really horrible in itself, as a process. So it does need to become more humanised, I guess. Actually, it's some of it's just been human, I think. But then the other side of it is absolutely is where and how do we change society's view on actually. On one level, you're saying you're going to cut benefits or take them away or reduce them or change the system in a really big way. But on the other hand, somebody in my situation who can't necessarily get into work, and it's not just as easy as having a wheelchair. There are so many underlying reasons. There are so many reasons within businesses that it's not often feasible for somebody to work when they think they should be able to work. And it's there are so many people that I work with who are coming up through now at 14, 16, who at the moment will not get jobs, probably. Everyone's struggling to get jobs, and then they're going to be put at the bottom of the pile before they even start trying to get into that system. And that's such a demoralising place to be, as we know, for any, and I hate the phrase, but NEET, any person out of education and training. That's a really tough place to be. But if you know that you're already bottom of that pile as well, that's a really horrible place to be.
Yeah, it certainly is. But thank goodness they've got people like you, Rachel, to keep them positive. Thank you so much for joining me. Rachel Morris there, gold-winning Paralympian and disability campaigner. Coming up in just a few moments' time, we have Phil Dave. He's going to be here to go through the newspapers with me, and also the story of the day that we've chosen to talk about at midnight, and that is where do the cuts come? Right? What do we cut? We need to cut something. At the moment, the total welfare and social security bill is $333 billion. Defence and security, $64 billion. So where do we cut? That's what we're talking about at midnight.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Nightlife and this is Petrie and this is Talk. Coming up in an hour's time, as I was just saying, we're going to be opening up the phone lines for the Talk Back Hour. And the question I have for you is one that's really been posed by Kemi Badenoch, who suggested that health benefits, health and welfare benefits, should be cut to fund defence. Now, it's not something that we really think about a lot, the defence bill. We haven't done until recent, sort of probably 9-12 months, really, or going back a bit further, the 4 and a bit years since the Ukraine-Russia war. But it is something that does need to be tackled. We are sitting ducks. We have no missiles at the moment, not one, no air defence missiles at all, nothing. We would have to rely on Germany or maybe even France to help us out if we were attacked. Not one. Our shipping is in a dreadful state. Our submarines are all dry at the moment. They're all out of water being repaired, all at the same time. When I say all, 5 of them I think we've got. We've got so few soldiers, seamen and Air Force men and women as well. It is a shocking state of affairs. And intelligence is telling us, really quite significant intelligence is telling us that Russia will be ready to attack one of our NATO allies in 3 years, 2 to 3 years. That process has been sped up. So Putin is hell-bent on this, right? And he's not a man to back down. He's not a man to change his mind. And we are in an absolutely dreadful state, right? And I just don't think anybody's kind of taking it seriously enough. And the only time we'll take it seriously is when something bad happens, that we are incapable of managing or controlling or defending. And even, you know, our Defence Minister, John Healey, and Al Cairns, the assistant, his deputy, stood down in protest over the very lean amount of money that Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves is talking about giving to defence in order to restock, rearm and get ourselves prepared for potentially a war in a few years' time. So we're in a very, very, very difficult situation, and we're broke. We haven't got any money. We know that, right? We do know that. I don't know how we're the 6th richest country in the world. I can't get my head around it at all, because we don't seem to have any money. So something's got to be cut. We're certainly not growing. There's certainly no way of organically creating enough money for defence. And we can't really borrow the sort of, we could, but we already owe somewhere in the region of $1 trillion or so. So it's too much money. And that would just add to our debt pile. Mind you, that will seem like nothing if we are attacked. But something's going to have to be cut. Now, either that is the wage check for people who are working. Yet again, Rachel Reeves was talking about coming back for more tax, even though her first budget was a once-in-a-lifetime, and then the second budget was also a once-in-a-lifetime. She's now talking about coming back for a third time in a lifetime. It's a bit like the referendum in Scotland. Third time in a lifetime to ask us for more money. That's the easy answer. It's always the go-to, particularly for a Labour government. It is always the go-to. Let's just tax more. Let's just tax them. Let's just tax them until they squeak. Let's just do it. Because that is the easiest answer. We've seen it twice from Reeves already, and that's her go-to and her easy, easy answer. The more difficult answer would be to cut back on spending, to cut back on the welfare bill, which is currently over a quarter of the entire government spend in a year. It's over a quarter of all the money that the government spends on welfare. 5 times, more than 5 times, what we spend on the defence of this country. And also to be able to defend our NATO allies, which is the more likely scenario, come the next 2 or 3 years, we'll be required to step up and support a country that's being attacked by Russia. So what should go? What should be cut? I mean, HS2 should have been cut years ago. It's too late now. It's already cost us more than it would cost to go to the moon. So what do we cut back on? Pensions? The triple lock? There's rumours about that being cut. So we either take money from old people, or we take money from working people, or we take money from unemployed people, or we take money from unwell people or disabled people. We take money from sick people by not funding the NHS as much. But somebody is going to have to pay. Somebody is going to lose out in order to defend Britain. And maybe you don't think we need any defence spending. I don't think we're fine. Don't worry about it. We're all right. We just won't help if NATO gets attacked. Yeah, just say no. We can say no, by the way. But we're unlikely to. So, because we'd want them to say yes, right, if we were attacked. So what goes? What goes? Is it, as Kemi Badenoch would like it to be, involved in the welfare budget? So give me a call. And maybe you think that working people should pay more tax. I mean, this is where I would say, I think the rich, the very, very rich, I'm not talking about people on salaries, I'm talking about people who've got millions and millions, 10 million plus, I think should pay more. But many of you don't agree with that either, for some reason. So how do we do this? How do we do it? Give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Calls charged at the national rate, but we do call you back. And text the word talk and your message to 87222. Well, joining me to discuss this and, of course, go through the papers for tomorrow in a little bit of time is Phil Dave, who is a broadcaster and editor here at Talk. Phil, wonderful to see you.
Good evening, Lady Hosken. It's a great pleasure to be back with you.
It's a marvellous jacket. Well, there you
Thanks.
go. There you go. What do you think, Phil? I mean, I've just been going through some of the numbers there. Something's got to give, right? And either it's, like I said, taxing working people, attacking old people with their pension, people on welfare, people who pays for this?
Well, I tell you who I think should be the last to pay for it is older people. I really get very sick of the way that this country is so at ease with attacking the older generation, because technically the vast majority of them, and I recognise there will be some who maybe came to this country slightly later in life, but the vast majority would have paid into the tax system all their life. It's now time that they are revered in the correct way, respected in the correct way, and that this country does not take advantage of them. Where I would say that there's a lot that needs to change is, I agree, the welfare system is in the most shocking state. I think that read one report that suggests there's anything up to 24 million people in this country are on one sort of benefit or another. Now, that doesn't mean that they're all out of work, but it means that there is some sort of benefit that they are claiming, whether that's some sort of tax relief, whether that means that they're on child benefit, whether it means that they're on the dole, as we call it, whatever it might be. So I definitely think there is savings to be had there. But then I also agree that there are some larger corporations that clearly don't pay their share in tax. Now, that's not because they're doing it illegally. They're actually doing it perfectly legally. But it doesn't mean that they shouldn't necessarily be contributing more. If you think of how much the average person pays percentage-wise of tax, whether or not that there is scope for them to pay a bit more. But then at the same time, there's a bit of a balancing act, because with those larger companies, we don't want to scare them off, because then, of course, it means that there'll be job
But that's
cuts.
them holding a gun to our heads, isn't it? If you tax us more, we're gonna leave, and so governments get scared of taxing them, and then they just turn to us again, which is what Rachel Reeves is planning to do for this defence budget.
No, for sure. And I think that the number of companies that would threaten to leave versus the ones that would actually do it probably is not actually that great, because the cost involved with them uprooting from the UK would probably be far more than the minimal extra tax they'd probably have to pay. But I think it's a case of no successive government has ever demonstrated we are truly in this together. I don't ever remember the last time that politicians ever declared that they'd be prepared to spend more in tax, or that they'd be able to, or prepared to give up some of the benefits, let's be honest, that they receive for being public servants. And I just think that if there was actual proof that everyone was in this together, well, then maybe it wouldn't leave such a bitter taste. It's because Labour typically favour the welfare. The Tories typically favour the wealthy. And you just think, there's got to be a happy medium somewhere that we can actually all pull together and to balance the books a little better than we have done for decades.
I mean, the answer to saving £1.9 billion off the welfare budget is to assess people who are on health and welfare benefits less frequently, which... yes, of course, if we didn't assess them, any of them, ever, we'd probably save another billion. But that's not the point, is it? Because the system, if you're just going to assess people, give it another year, as opposed to doing it every 2 years, do it every 3 years, then that gives more opportunity for people to fleece the system and languish without having to answer a single question for 3 years instead of 2 years.
Yeah, there is that, and this is before we've even mentioned the foreign aid bill. I mean, the foreign aid budget, as far as I know, something like the planned foreign aid spend for the period of 26 to 27 is roughly 10 billion, I think. I'm perfectly sure that there could be cuts there. And I know there are plenty of people out there who say, but hang on a second, foreign aid, you mustn't underestimate it, because actually it does a lot to prevent even more people coming to the UK, which is true in some sense, but to be perfectly honest with you, if we had tougher defence, which is what we're always talking about here, if we had tougher defence, well, then I'm sorry, people wouldn't infiltrate the UK. They wouldn't have a choice. You say it stops them coming here. But if we protected ourselves better, they wouldn't be able to, simple as. So, I mean, it does swing in roundabouts. I just think that everyone's very quick to say, oh, this is the problem, this is the problem, this is the problem. But actually, most people are right when they say it's the problem. When they say the NHS is badly run and spends far too much money, it could save us billions. Absolutely right. When they say that people are claiming benefits incorrectly, absolutely correct. When people say that there are larger companies that could pay more money, absolutely. All of these things combined is why this country is in such a state.
Yeah, nothing seems to be working properly, does it? Nothing. I mean, we've had these unbelievable systemic failures in protecting that little baby, for example, from protecting Preston, and you've had the situations where the Southport killer could have been spotted several times, or Callicone was also a system failure, and the systems. I get so... I don't know how we're the sixth richest country in the world. I really don't.
Well, it's a very sad indictment of the rest of the world if we're the sixth richest.
Exactly, because we're not it doesn't seem like we're managing anything well. It doesn't seem like we're running anything. I mean, look at HS2. What an absolute fiasco.
Oh, totally not. But at the same time, I suppose to say that one is the sixth richest just means that there is that amount of wealth in the country, but it doesn't mean it's being managed properly.
No.
The money might be physically in the country, but unfortunately the way it's being managed is just abominable. Really shambolic.
When it comes to defence, the issue is that a lot of people say, well, we're fine. You know, we haven't been attacked in 80 years. We're you know, the peace dividend still holds. There's nothing to say definitely that Putin is going to attack a NATO country, although it already has attempted to see how far it can go with dropping things into Poland and other countries. But you know, that is the plan, apparently, for Putin. Do you think we're being naive if we don't all support the idea of a much improved defence budget?
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about it. We definitely need to defend our country. I mean, unless everyone's just given up and says, oh, well, to heck with it, it doesn't really matter. Let the country be invaded. Well, it's already being invaded. We know that. Let the country be invaded. Let the country be attacked. It doesn't matter. Whatever happens, happens. Well, if that's your mindset, well, then good luck. You know, we're in that position already, so it doesn't really matter to you. But no, I think that in terms of how different the country could be if Russia did invade, or any other country, really. I mean, let's not forget the Iranian threat. I love the way that people think just because Starmer was stubborn enough not to join the US and Israel in what they did in Iran. Well, I hate to tell you, that doesn't eliminate us from being a target for Iran. It just means that they'll come after us third. You know, they're after Israel first, they're after America second, they're after us third. The Iranian regime does not like the Western world, and they see Britain, rightly or wrongly, as a bastion of the Western world and wants to eliminate us. But like I said, they've got a couple of other distractions ahead of us first. But even if you shove Iran to one side, and let's focus on Russia for a moment, the problem you've got with that, and actually I said the problem you've got with it, is I think that Putin is just playing games because he knows how weak the UK is. The only thing we've got going for us is that we've actually got nothing to offer Russia. In the grand scheme of things, even let's just say hypothetically, Russia invaded tomorrow and took over this country, they've got nothing to gain from it. It's not like that this is a country that's rich in minerals or oil or anything like that. There's nothing to gain from it.
No, but Russia sees it as Lebensraum, doesn't it? In the same way the Germans did in taking land. It wasn't. It was just about expansionism. It wasn't about anything else. It was
but
just
if you think of the land that Russia's got around it, that it could expand into, I mean, Ukraine is goodness knows how many the size of us in the UK.
Absolutely, but
it doesn't make a blind bit of difference.
But we wouldn't tolerate seeing Poland or any further thing. And the one thing that we do have that Putin is a little bit nervous of is nuclear defences. We do have nuclear, so we would be the least likely to be attacked first, if you like, because of that nuclear defence capability. But it doesn't mean that he wouldn't go for our allies. And like I said, it's not, the point is about doing it, not about why he's doing it.
He's flexing his muscles, that's what I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Really. Yeah, I agree, but I still fear him flexing. Anyway, Phil, thank you. Well, that's what we're talking about at midnight, is what needs to give. What should we do in order to fund the defence of the realm? And maybe you are somebody who thinks, well, we don't need to be doing that. Or do you think that welfare does need to be cut? Or maybe the budget for the NHS? Or maybe people who are working do need to pay more tax? I don't think we can do that, can we? I don't know. I suppose we'll just keep doing it until we drop down dead from working to pay tax bills. 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate. Do call you back. And text the word talk and your message to 87222. Back with
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you. And with me is Phil Dave, who's a Talk broadcaster and editor. Let's start with the Telegraph, Phil. And there's that story, in fact, I think it's on most of the papers this morning, for tomorrow morning. A Russian warship fires shots in the Channel. This is an unarmed British yacht, only under sail power. There was no engine power there, which is significant when it comes to maritime law. But there were shots fired across the bow to these 60-year-olds, I think.
Yes. Well, I mean, I can certainly understand why people are unnerved by this, and the timing does seem a little bit curious.
Too coincidental for my liking.
Yeah, and I don't really believe in coincidences
no, I don't.
either. But it was a little too close to the fact that, of course, that Britain had, I suppose overthrown, but looked into some sort of vessel that was obviously Russian a couple of days ago. And could this just be payback? Who knows? I wouldn't put it past Putin. But in terms of what's sort of been the agreed outcome, is that the Russians are saying that actually, well, no, we weren't firing at. We were just very concerned that this vessel was a little too near and straying and floating near us, and we wanted to warn them that we were nearby in case there was any collision. Well, I'm not quite sure what kind of collision one could create with a small sailboat compared to this massive warboat of some description.
Yeah, Admiral Grigorovich.
Grigorovich, yeah.
Grigorovich.
Sorry, my Russian is not so good.
Yeah. So, but the thing is with maritime law, as I was saying, that it is the duty of the ship under an engine to avoid a sailboat. And that is international maritime law. That is not some vague, British law. And they would have well known that. It was their job to get out of the way. But of course, they're downplaying this. But then we had not long ago those photographs of a Russian plane showing its belly to an RAF plane, which is an aggressive move. If an aircraft which is loaded with bombs shows its belly, quite deliberately peels off in that direction, that is an act of aggression to say, look, I've got all these weapons. So we've seen that just a week or so ago. So Russia is poking at us in the West.
I was just going to say, Russia is poking the bear, no doubt about it. And I don't think anyone could read it in any other way. But if this isn't a wake-up call to the authorities to say, oh, heck, we really need to do something quite drastic now to start increasing spending and preparing ourselves.
I don't know how much more of a warning we need.
I don't know what more they need.
Yeah.
No, I don't know what more they need.
Yeah.
Because even if, the really hopeful outcome is they never have to use it. But the fact is we don't have it. And other countries know we don't have it. And that's the problem. And this is why, personally, whenever people were banging on about banning Trident, I was always vehemently anti that.
Yeah, me
because
too.
It was always designed to be a deterrent.
Exactly.
No one ever wants to press the red button. But the truth is, if you get rid of nuclear, or if we get rid of nuclear, that's not going to suddenly say to Kim Jong-un, oh, do you know what? Britain's got rid of it now. I don't need nuclear anymore. It's not going to happen like that.
And it also, the world tragically isn't as well looking at Britain and going, oh, bless them, they haven't got any weapons. That means they're not going to be aggressive. No, they're going to look and go, oh, good, they're weak.
Exactly.
Because
they look at it as payback, because there's not to forget how many people dislike Britain.
Yeah. And in some cases for reasonably good reason as well. So the Russian warship fires shots in the Channel, the government downplaying it, of course. Standard, as they would.
Well, I tell you why they downplay it. It couldn't be more obvious. The reason why they downplay is because they know there's no comeback. They know they can't do anything about it. But whereas if they play it down and avoid any unnecessary panic or pressure, this is more the point. They're not really worried about panic. We can panic if we want. That's fine. They don't care about that. What they care about is additional pressure on them or a bad look on them based on how volatile certainly Starmer's premiership is, but let's be honest, the Labour government are.
Yeah, absolutely. Great picture on the front there, Phil, of the King and Queen being they're at Ascot, I think. Is it Ascot?
Yes, it is Ascot.
Yeah, it is Ascot. Watching their horse reaching high, and the Queen's like, ooh. It's just such a very human photograph. I think it's lovely.
I agree, because actually I think that it's very easy to forget the royal family are human when we see them living a lifestyle that many could only dream of. Some might only nightmare of it, who knows, but many would dream of the kind of lifestyle they lead. But at the heart of it are human beings who need to maintain a certain front, and yet moments such as Ascot will permit them to just show that side that we never get to see very often. And I quite like, and especially after how rough the King has had it recently.
Yeah. There's another story there. I don't know if you ever met Andrew Castle, but
I did actually. Yes, he's a very nice chap.
Really sweet guy. I mean, I knew him at another radio station that I worked at. Andrew Castle has been dropped from the Wimbledon lead commentator role, with the BBC moving in a new direction from next year. I mean, what new direction do you need with commentating a tennis match, for goodness sake?
I know exactly what the new direction is. It's exactly the direction I faced when I was there. Is that it's this move against white British males. It really is as simple as that, and I can't really be delicate about it, because that's how it feels. If you work, I know you and I both worked there, but if you work there and you're caught up in this rhetoric that basically implies you have to book someone other than a white British bloke, it's just endemic in the BBC. It's appalling. Now, look, I obviously don't know who they're planning on replacing him with, but I will say one thing. I think Andrew Castle, being genuinely one of the nicest people I've met in the industry, most down to earth, but on top of all of that, a really blooming good broadcaster. I think they're insane.
Yeah, I mean, look, the only argument I would have against that whole "it's not fair" on white British men is he has held that position for 23 years.
For very good reason.
Whereas there, you know, many people who might have wanted to be in that position haven't had a look in. So
there are many positions we'd all like to hold, but it's irrelevant. You know, he's good at the job. You know, don't bin him off just for the heck of it. Don't put him into retirement. Look, if he was starting to lose it a bit, like, for my humble opinion, you look at the way that Boris was going when he was doing the commentary. I know he won't do it again anytime soon, but when he was doing the old commentary on Wimbledon, he was just coming out with absolute rubbish. So I was never too upset when they binned him off. But at the same time, you just hear someone like Andrew Castle, who's just a class act. He's so good at it and really knows the game. It's just pathetic. It's the same with Sue Barker. She felt forced out. I don't know. She did.
Yeah, and 24 years of hosting Question of Sport, and I think it was only a couple of years before they had to bin Question of Sport because it just became. I think it's gone now.
I believe so. I don't even know who took over from her.
It was some team like Paddy McGuinness or something. I don't know why people keep employing him. He's a kiss of death to any show. but I think it was somebody like that, and they were trying to sort of youth it up, and it's gone now.
This is an obsession. Yeah, this is an obsession with the BBC as well. Is, you know, in between playing the race card, which they do frequently, it's also they're quite ageist as well.
Oh, they are very ageist.
In the sense that they believe that the way to get a younger audience is to put someone younger in the place of the person who they deem to be too old for the job. And of course, as anyone with half a brain knows, that's the most pathetic and stupid method, because audiences, funnily enough, grow organically. You don't need to go chasing an audience. The audience comes to you if you give them what they want.
If they're good enough, if you're good enough, absolutely. And just before we go to a break, taxpayers to subsidise French bills under the clean energy deal. Now, I've read this, and I think the problem, the situation is that we don't have enough batteries to store the excess fuel that we make in the summer, and therefore we sell it cheaply rather than get rid of it. We sell it cheaply to the French. So they get it cheaply because we can't store it.
It sounds about right. But I mean, I know that people would look at this, and again, it's just a typical headline that is trying to make out as if something is not quite as it seems. And as much as I understand why people would be annoyed, especially given how expensive energy bills are, it's typical of, again, successive governments not looking at what the actual cause of the problem is, rather than just coming up with a naff solution. So, to my mind, yes, I understand why people would be annoyed, but then we've never really had a proper system in place to store clean energy in this country.
No,
it's
and that
always been an issue.
Yeah, it has always been an issue, and it is because if we could store that, then those subsidies go, that subsidised fuel or that cheaper fuel then comes back to us, but we have to sell it on the marketplace for cheap because we've got nowhere to put it.
And also, so it just basically doesn't go to waste.
Yeah, yes. Exactly that. But to say the taxpayers are subsidising French bills, I think that's a little bit minxy, that headline. But I agree with you. It is,
but I mean, technically, you could argue that that is what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, technically you could,
but that's not the premise. That's not the whole point behind why it's happening.
No, which is why you should never just go on headlines alone. Anyway, Phil, let's take a quick break. We'll be back in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you, and with me, of course, is Phil Dave, who is, well, you know who Phil Dave is. He sits in this chair when I'm skiving off. Anyway...
Thankfully, you don't skive off very often.
No, I don't. Don't get paid when I come home and off. It just keeps me tied to this chair. Anyway...
I feel like I don't get paid when I'm there, let alone when I get off. But anyway, so I'll just say that out loud. I'm so sorry.
Goodness me. Let's have a look at the Times. Again, the Russian warship firing at the yacht in the Channel is taking up quite a big piece of the paper. But then there's Keir Starmer's relationship with Ed Miliband has broken down to such an extent that the Energy Secretary has been accused of ghosting the Prime Minister in recent weeks. And that's because I think that Keir Starmer had the temerity to ask Ed Miliband to find a 1% cut in his budget as Clean Energy Minister, and he said, no, not doing it.
Look, I think that anyone with eyes in their head must get the impression that Miliband is... I'm sorry, I'm just going to say how I say it. I think he's a basket case. I think he's absolutely
God, I
lunatic.
wondered what you were going to say then.
Yeah, no.
Righty.
No, I know the diff. Don't worry. I know what I'm supposed to say and what not to say. Don't you worry. But he is an extraordinarily strange individual, and that might be rich coming from me. But he comes across as bonkers. And, you know, for him to be so het up and so hell-bent on this idea of net zero, which, as we've said many times before, is a fallacy. It doesn't exist. It's not possible to achieve net zero. Yet he knows this. He won't admit it because he's got the blinkers on. That's all he's interested in. And for the PM to rightly ask him to maybe just water it down slightly, by him now, quote unquote, ghosting the PM and refusing to take his calls, to my mind just shows how childish he is.
Well, he wants, my understanding is that he wants Burnham and wants to be Burnham's Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Heaven
which
help us.
I
That
know.
would just be horrendous.
Seriously, we think we're taxed.
I laugh
to
out
death
of nerves.
We think we're taxed now. Crikey! If there was an Ed Miliband Chancellor of the Exchequer,
Well, there are those who are old enough to remember when Ed Miliband was indeed the leader of the Labour Party, and that was
weird.
quite unbearable in itself. Anyway, and he was just opposition.
Yeah. Yeah,
and I mean, it's amazing the number of people who don't know how he did the dirty on his own brother to get that leadership.
Yeah,
that's what I find staggering. And yeah, there are still people who admire. Look, I suppose there are people who admire and hate everyone. They know that it's in all walks of life. But for goodness' sake, this is clearly not a nice guy, and I don't get it. I don't understand how he's managed to rise to where he's at. I don't understand how on earth he's been given the position he has. I can only assume he knows where the bodies are buried.
Yeah, potentially indeed. The Daily Mail for tomorrow, or for, let me just say Wednesday, is Putin opens fire in the Channel. So they're going much more hardline, I think, than other papers are doing. A Russian warship firing warning shots at a yacht. So they've gone big on that. But of course, the big story for Wednesday is England versus Croatia.
Indeed.
That is during my show.
Oh.
Oh.
Well, that might affect the couple of messages you get, but even so...
It might affect... I might be on my own whistling Dixie while that's on, but I
know what I'd rather watch, so don't worry.
Me whistling Dixie.
Exactly.
I think that it's obviously it's the first game for England in this tournament, and all eyes will be on it. And I'm sure it'll be a good game because Croatia's a good side.
Look, if you say all eyes will be on it, my eyes won't be. I'll very happily just wait and hear what the score is. That will do me.
I think we might even watch it.
I can't explain how.
Sam's already nodded. I think he's already got a secret earpiece.
There you go. I was going to say he'll be already. He'll have
we'll
one
just
eye
have
on
it on
the
one of
game.
the screens. We'll watch it. Yeah. Oh, he's got the World Cup on now. He said. That's good.
Oh,
isn't it?
there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Very good. Who's playing and what's the score? I don't even know.
Yeah. Who's playing? Iraq, Norway, and who's winning? It's 1-1. There you go.
How riveting.
Yeah.
But therein lies my point, is I can't get excited about such low scores. To my mind, the reason why I like tennis, which is why I was getting quite enthusiastic earlier about the prospect of Andrew Castle being dropped from Wimbledon commentary, is that, to my mind, tennis actually has a real thrill to it where you can actually sort of see points before your eyes. But with football, it just seems to take ages for them to score. And
I'm not a fan of tennis. Bores
really?
me.
Oh, no, I love tennis.
Absolutely bores me.
I love tennis.
Rugby, love it.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah,
dear.
yeah. I can watch a rugby game anytime.
No, I always thought it was worth a try, but I didn't like it.
Let's have a look at the I paper. Again, retired UK couple reveals scary clash in the Channel with a Russian warship. But right at the top there is Toy Story 5. Magnificent, tear-jerking nostalgia. Apparently, it's getting rave reviews, and I think 3 and 4 didn't do so well. I don't know. I haven't watched them all, but
I confess I have seen them all.
Have you?
So.
But
look,
this one apparently is spectacular. So.
Yeah, look, I often wonder whether or not companies like Disney just play on a brand and try and bleed it dry in the hope that it'll be easy money. And then I try and remind myself, well, actually, if you look at the credits of a film, no film like that is easy to put together. There are hundreds of people involved in putting it together, and it's important people remember that, because there's a lot of work. I've got friends, as I'm sure you do, who work in the film industry, and I know how hard they work for things. I don't know anyone who's worked on Toy Story 5, to be fair, but I certainly know people who've worked on other films, and they tell me sort of what goes into it. But at the same time, I understand why people think that they're just sort of playing on a successful brand. But then you could argue it's successful for a reason. It's because many of us have grown up with Toy Story. I remember going to cinema as a child, watching the very first one and thinking, wow, this is the future. This is amazing. And now
I don't know which one it was with my son, but he, I remember having to buy all of the toys from the. So we had a sort of a Woody and a Buzz, I think, and we had a Slinky as well.
Gotta love Slinky.
Yeah,
Slinky the sausage dog.
Yeah, Slinky was a sausage dog. So we certainly had the toys from Toy Story. But look, like you said, it's nostalgia. It's a bit of fun. We all need a bit of light relief at the moment. And also
please.
we had the donkey, not the donkey, the horse.
Oh, Bullseye. So that would have been from Toy Story 2 then.
Yeah, then it would have been from 2. The other good bit of news on the top of the eye is petrol price forecast to fall by 8p by the end of June, with diesel down 17p.
Hurrah.
Hurrah.
Well, I mean, it's got quite a lot further to fall than 8 pence per litre.
Since it's
but
gone up
let's
about
see what happens.
25.
It went up about 50 pence a litre or something stupid. No, at its peak, I think it did. But to be fair, it sort of averaged out around 30 pence extra a litre. But even so, that's just abominable.
Yeah, it is a lot. I think that's a bit too optimistic, to be honest with you. But I think that
it's amazing how all of these prices, they go up, they never go down.
Yeah.
Because I remember when we worked at another station, and this might give it away slightly when I say this, when there was a lookout for when the petrol prices reached around 94.9 pence, and when it's now obviously well and truly surpassed that. So you just think, if there was a sort of a feature on a station where that price was relevant and they were looking out for it happening, and now it's well and truly surpassed that number, it just goes to show how cheap petrol used to be.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it is so expensive now. It really is, eye-wateringly so. But I just think that's a little bit optimistic that the prices are going to come down that quickly. Up like a rocket, down like a feather. That's what they say.
Indeed.
With,
well, of course, if the Chancellor really wants to help us, then of course she would cut fuel duty, but I don't think she wants to.
I don't think she wants to either. I don't think she wants to take the difficult choices. That's what I think she wants to do. The Sun newspaper for Wednesday. Warship targets yacht again. Vlad fires on Brit OAPs in Channel. The Guardian again. Warship opens fire in the Channel to warn off a British yacht. And no peace if Israel stays in Lebanon, says Iran. So even this memorandum of understanding that was supposed to be signed on Friday, I don't think Iran has ever budged from that point, by the way. I think they've always said that.
No, I don't. I'm sure they haven't, because they've
Pakistan
got their...
has already backed that claim up, but America has said that that's not part of the deal.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, it's not really a shock that Iran would say that, because to those who understand the conflict in the region, then they'll know that in Lebanon, Iran has a great presence in the form of Hezbollah, and they don't want their proxy to be removed from that part of the region, because they want to keep an eye on Israel. The reason why Israel has had to invade Lebanon is because that unfortunately a lot of weaponry is fired from that country into Israel, and they do all they can to keep their citizens safe. So it's messy. It's not as black and white as that. I wouldn't blame Iran for saying that they don't want to sign a peace deal if indeed they have to withdraw from there. But I think if the people of Lebanon had a backbone, which actually a lot of them are, there's an awful lot who are rising up against this, but it's not covered very well in the press because it doesn't suit the narrative. But if Lebanon did have a backbone, they'd say, Hezbollah, get out. You're just causing mischief for all of us.
To be fair, the Lebanese government has been trying to deal with Hezbollah, but they've been very slow and very weak.
The Lebanese government have. I'm saying there's not much coverage.
Right. Yeah.
But but that is a major factor. The fact that Lebanon doesn't want Hezbollah there either.
Yeah. No, they don't. They absolutely don't. But I wonder if that's going to derail things by Friday. And even Trump at the G7 was very dismissive. Very angry, it seemed to be, with Benjamin Netanyahu, saying things like he doesn't need to bomb an entire block of flats just to get a couple of people from Hezbollah, and that Bibi should leave it to Syria.
Well, look, I question how Trump has done such a 180 on this, because towards the start of the Iran war, you'd be forgiven for thinking that he was basically a puppet master for Bibi and saying, look, do this, do that, do the other.
Yeah, they were lockstep, and now Benjamin is not obeying them. Yeah, because they've got two different versions of this war.
There is, but I also think what plays a massive part in this is Trump has seen what it's done to his popularity rating, and he's always gone off the back of, look at me, look how popular I am.
Absolutely.
And now suddenly he's not as popular because he had the most ghastly choice. I mean, I understand why he went into Iran and did what he did. I know there are plenty of people who don't understand it, and we don't really need to spend the rest of our time going through those details. But let's just say if he didn't and Iran had access to nuclear weapons, well, then there wouldn't be much of a Western world to be fighting over. So I wouldn't really worry about it. You know, if you want the Western world to end, then leave Iran alone. If you want the Western world to live for many more years, sometimes you've got to make the difficult choices.
Yeah, the question is always the how close or not they were to that position, but maybe it was something that had to be done.
Didn't want them to get within a country mile of it, as far as I was concerned, and they should never have been allowed to get as far as they did.
Let's take a break, and Phil and I'll be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here, and with me is Phil Dave. The Guardian, the other story is their minister objects to the Thames water deal. This is taking Thames Water one step closer to having to be nationalised. The UK Environment Secretary has objected to the 10 billion rescue proposal for Thames Water because it would place an undue burden on consumers. Now, Thames Water is the biggest water company in the country. I think it deals with 16 million. More than, actually, it must be more than that, customers. But it's within London and the South East. There's a lot of us that are you Thames?
No, I believe that I am in this region where I'm at Affinity.
Oh, OK. So, but the point is, though, that as customers of water companies, we don't have a choice. They hold monopoly positions wherever they are. And Thames Water has, I mean, it's just absolutely appalling what they've done to us as customers, the infrastructure they haven't looked after, the dumping of waste that they do in rivers and waterways. And they're asking
and yet still they've managed to find enough money to reward their shareholders.
Yeah, well, and that is the thing that should be illegal, is borrowing money to give to shareholders. I mean, that I don't know how that is even legal. It should be profit that provides shareholder funding or profits for them. But it's just absolutely criminal.
Well, it does strike me as bonkers, but at the same time, I suppose the only way I could look at it is without the shareholders, the company collapses. But I mean, you could argue it's collapsing anyway. Yeah. So, but don't
forget that they were given these water companies without any debt. You know, when they first took these over, these people, and they've just built up all this debt and just passed it on to us as consumers. I mean, my water bill I pay once every 6 months, and I got a bill and I thought, why are they charging me it all in one go this year? Why am I getting a year's money? No, it wasn't. That was for 6 months. So yeah, horrendous. The Metro, here we owe. The fans spend a fortune on flights, tickets, and a pint to make us proud. That's the Three Lions. Good luck to them on that. And the Mirror says Rayner's message. Shut up. It's not too late for Labour. Ex-Deputy PM praises Burnham's by-election campaign but avoids big Starmer question. Angela Rayner insists it's not too late for Labour to regain the public's trust.
OK. Mm-hmm. If you say so, Ange.
Yeah, well said, Ange. The whole world's listening.
Look, I mean, part of me does think you have to admire the eternal optimism of some politicians, but then all I think it demonstrates is they just don't live in the real world.
No,
They've no idea.
They really don't.
Well, either they have got an idea and they just ignore us, which is even worse.
Yeah, well, she's also a great pal of Burnham, isn't she? Because they're in the same region. The Daily Express, again going with Putin's ship opens fire, and so does the Daily Star, but they've got the best headline of the day, Oh Frigate, which I think is brilliant.
Good work, Daily Star.
Good work, Daily Star. Very happy with that. Russian warship fires warning shots at the UK yacht in the Channel. Yeah, this comes after Marines seized one of Putin's tankers earlier this week. And the FT, SpaceX races past Amazon as fifth most valuable group. And G7 leaders to increase pressure on Russia with fresh oil sanctions, even though Donald Trump, of course, lifted sanctions on Russia, and they're making an absolute fortune out of the Iran situation. So,
well, I mean, of course, his attempt to lift those sanctions was in a bid to win Putin over, but sadly, I just don't think it's quite worked in the way he thought.
And also, he thought it would bring down prices in America, which would help him coming up to the midterms. So, you know, not good. I thought Donald Trump looked really not very well at the G7 meeting, actually. I have to be honest with you. Thought he looked a bit pasty and a bit unwell. But
I was slightly confused why Zelensky was there, if I'm honest. But anyway.
Well, that's because of the Russia situation, isn't it?
No, I know,
he's not
but it's still
G7.
he's not G7.
No,
so
no.
But anyway.
You know, maybe he should be. I mean, they're doing rather brilliantly, it has to be said. Let's turn to some lighter news now, Phil. Light-fingered thief. This is one of your picks of the day. Greggs raided by brazen seagull.
Well, the reason why I chose this is because the truth is I have had an experience with a rather audacious seagull stealing stuff from me before.
No.
So, oh yeah. So the long old story short, what happened was I frequent Brighton quite a fair whack. I happened to enjoy that part of the country, and I went there on one of my usual visits, and as I was walking along the pier before you had to pay for it, which you now have to pay to access Brighton Pier, which I think is absolutely outrageous, but let's not dwell on that.
Because it burnt down, didn't it? So they're trying to repay.
No, that was the other pier.
Oh,
this is the main pier. The main pier you have to pay for now. Oh. So, but anyway, I mean, I digress. The point being is I was walking along the pier. I had decided to opt for a rather well-known fish and chips restaurant whilst I was there as takeaway, and I thought, well, I know, whilst I'm walking along the pier, I'll kill two birds, no pun intended, two birds with one stone. I'll let the fish and chips cool down. I'll just open this box of fish and chips and let the cool air breeze in and cool the fish and chips down. Well, anyway, this seagull had other ideas and swooped down to nick half of my fish. And brazen, I mean, you haven't seen anything like it. This was like
thugs. They're the thugs of the bird world.
But it's like a doodlebug. If ever I saw it, it just shot straight down into the box of fish, swooped it and shot back up again. And of course, naturally, my response was, well, I think the reaction anyone would give if someone had nicked their fish out of their fish and chips. And that was, of course, I tried to look to the perpetrator and start swearing at them. But of course, because the perpetrator was about 15 foot in the air and I was looking up at them and sort of waving my fist, I was a little bit worried that there were people around me who genuinely thought of calling people in white coats, because they could just sort of see that, is this chap okay? He appears to be swearing into thin air. But anyway, needless to say, I wasn't desperately happy, but he left half the fish at least, and I continued that. Anyway, I digress slightly because, of course, the story is not about my experience with the seagull. It's about the fact that there are seagulls who apparently rather brazenly have raided a branch of Greggs, and they keep nicking packets of crisps, apparently. But eyewitnesses just said that it was really quite an amazing sight. But they were even more impressed the fact that the seagull had managed to resist the temptation of a Greggs sausage roll. Yeah,
but also this particular seagull stole a packet of crisps. They were salt and cider vinegar crisps, and managed to open the packet.
Yes.
Yeah. They are definitely the thugs of the world. They really are. And just very quickly, the Wombles of Wimbledon Common. I used to love that.
Well,
the Wombles of Wimbledon Common are coming back. I used to watch that.
Indeed. Well, I mean, if you're a traveller of London transport, you'll appreciate overground, underground. But even so, the Wombles are making a comeback. Nearly 3 decades, apparently. 3 decades after their last appearance on television. Apparently, the environmentally friendly creatures from Wimbledon Common are set for a new generation of adventures, complete with their famous message about recycling and making good use out of bad rubbish. In particular, though, I think it's to a YouTube audience, and they've been digitised. They're not puppets anymore.
It's not a shame. Phil, thank you. Got to go. Back in just a mo with Talkback.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, and a very good morning to you. This is Talk Back, and you're with Petrie now for the next hour, and it's just you and me. What I want to talk about this morning is the Tories have launched a disability benefits review with the aim of cutting the welfare bill by £23 billion. This money, Kemi Badenoch says, should then go into our defence budget. At the moment, Keir Starmer is looking at around 13 billion extra to go into the defence budget, which of course we know he resigned over. And so did Al Cairns. So both of them have gone from the Ministry of Defence in protest, really, at what they perceive as Keir Starmer not taking the defence of this realm seriously enough. Rachel Reeves, on the other hand, has already declared that if we want to spend more money on defence, we're going to have to tax people more, because that's what Labour do. That's what they've always done. That is the easy route. They won't go after the big corporations. They won't go after the 10 million plus wealthy. They won't go after, they just go after you and me, because we're easy. And especially if you're PAYE, that is just nothing to do with you. They just take more money off you, and you don't, well, I was going to say you don't even notice it, but of course you do. And we've already had 2 budgets from her, once in a lifetime. Taking more money from us. This will be the once in a lifetime, won't have to do it again. Fiscal headroom, fiscal headroom. And then we get the second one, and she did exactly the same thing. And it looks like the plan is again to tax working people in this country. And I think our pips are squeaking now. I think that the tax burden is just so ridiculously high that it's no wonder, and I think this does tie in to the welfare bill, the benefits and welfare bill, because a lot of people are saying, well, what's the point in working? What's the point in working? Why would I get up every morning and go to work when all I'm going to do is pay all of that money back in taxes, when there are people sitting on their backsides not doing anything and getting almost as much money as I get? So I do think the two things are linked, and I think she's a bit, not quite good, not very good at the maths of working that out. However, Kemi Badenoch is suggesting a cut to welfare in order to put that money, to not tax working people, but to put that money into defence. Keir Starmer's already tried, well, when I say try, he sort of mumbled that he was going to cut welfare, and the backbenchers revolted. And he U-turned on it and said, no, we're not going to do that. Just so you get an idea of the bill, the total welfare and social security bill currently runs at around £333 billion per year. That is more than 10% share of gross domestic product. And it is nearly 24% the share of total government spend. So nearly a quarter of all the money that the government spends goes into the welfare budget. And the bad news is that this bill is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. To put it into other terms for you, the UK spends more than 5 times as much on welfare and pensions as it does on defending the realm. To put this in perspective, the single year increase in the bill, 18 billion, represents nearly 30% of the entire defence budget. So we are looking at a situation now where more and more people are not working, more and more people are claiming sickness benefits, and fewer and fewer people are joining the workforce. Official forecasts suggest that in the decade between the pandemic and 2030, which may I remind you is 3 years away, PIP claims will have increased by about 3 million to 5.4 million people, the equivalent of adding 836 successful claims a day, every day, for 10 years. So PIP spending has risen from 11 billion in 2019 to 2020 to 22 billion. So it has doubled in 24-25. So it's doubled in 2 years. It's extraordinary. I mean, literally, this cannot keep going. How can it? How can it keep going? The spending is forecast to rise to more than 30 billion by 29-30, according to the Office for Budget Responsibility. There are voices suggesting we need to recognise where welfare has gone wrong. Our system is too quick to put people onto welfare and too slow to support people back to work. We simply cannot afford not to reform sickness benefits. Higher taxes, slower growth and not enough money for defence is the price our country pays when its government doesn't have a plan for welfare. The Tories claim to have identified £7 to £9 billion in savings from stopping sickness benefits for mild mental health and neurodiversity conditions such as anxiety and ADHD. A further £7 billion, they say, will be saved by stopping benefits for foreign citizens, which I don't know how they do that if those foreign citizens are paying tax and national insurance. So I don't know how you can expect a foreign national to pay their income tax and national insurance and then deprive them of a benefit. I don't know how that would work. But there is going to be this review, and the Tories have said we'll work with anybody in Labour to get this sorted out. There is no doubt about it, whichever way you look at this, that we can afford for the benefits bill to keep increasing at the rate that it is increasing. But also, if it doesn't come from benefits, where does it come from? Because it's got to come from somewhere. We do need to defend this country. We don't have a single air defence missile, not one. We'll end up throwing rocks. I mean, that's how pathetic it is. We're cutting training for soldiers. We're cutting numbers. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Look how embarrassing it was to get that ship into the Middle East or anywhere near Cyprus. I mean, it was embarrassing. We are weak. We are absolutely weak. And it doesn't have to be a conventional war that we're facing from Russia. We know that they were poking around the cables that supply our internet the other week as well. So Russia now firing at yachts in the English Channel. Russia doing flybys on RAF planes, next to RAF planes, and being aggressively showing the weapons that they're carrying. So, and the rest of Poland is spending an awful lot more money on defence now because they know how risky Russia is under Putin. So we are in a pickle and we don't have enough money. We don't. I don't know where it all goes, but it is gone. We don't have it. And Rachel Reeves' simple answer is to tax you and me more, which I think will add even more people to the welfare bill, as most of us go, we'll stuff that for a game, I'm not going to work anymore. So how do we pay for defence? What should be cut? Should it be pensions? Triple lock, get rid of that. A lot of people would say that's unfair because, these people have paid in all their lives and they want to have their pension and to retire. And I'm telling you, we already have the lowest pension of the whole of Europe, I think. It's just not very good. So is it pensions? Do we steal from the old to pay for defence? Do we steal from the disabled? or the ill to pay for defence. Because even if you say, well, no, it'll just be the shirkers and the liars that lose out, it won't be. We know that. The baby will be thrown out with the bathwater. We know that. People with genuine need will suffer. So, but do we take the money off them? Do we take the money off the sick in terms of the NHS? Cut the budgets to the NHS. That's also another beast of expenditure for this country. Where do we get the money? Or do you think we don't need to? We don't need to defend the country. It's absolutely fine. We're fine. We'll just keep out of it. We'll turn into Switzerland. We'll just say, look, we don't want any part of NATO, and we don't want any part of defending our allies. We're just going to hunker down and hope that we don't get attacked, and therefore rely on somebody else to come to our defence. Maybe you think that that is the answer. But whatever it is, the point is that we have never been weaker. We have never been weaker in this country in terms of defence, and the whole world knows it. So where do we get the money from to bolster the defence of the realm? 0344 499 1000. You can text as well. Those calls are charged, by the way, but we do call you back. And the text the word talk and your message to 87222. Tristan is in Bedford. Morning, Tristan. Are you? Does this fill your heart with dread, hearing that the welfare budget might be cut?
Not dread, disgust.
Right.
To be honest with you, I mean, there is places where they can cut back, but it's just the case they won't cut back. I mean, we had another 700 people that came on the boats today. We keep paying that every single day. I mean, I think it's between 8 and 10 million we're paying for immigrants every single day. We're still paying foreign aid, I assume.
Well, the money for housing migrants, my understanding is, does come from the foreign aid budget. So the foreign aid budget that we do still have, but a chunk of that is paid to support migrants in the UK.
Yeah, I mean, we also, the amount of money we're paying towards net zero is, I mean, I dread to think what budget that's going for. To be honest with you, the amount of money that we're paying, obviously, to import energy to countries, Norway and, ironically, Russia as well, that we already admitted that we're going to start doing. And the thing is, when you're talking about, welfare, we're now paying the most we've ever paid in welfare in history. It now dwarfs income tax. And the thing is that I don't know the sort of, I mean, I've tried so many times to get some sort of disability benefit towards my Crohn's, and I can't get anything, And the thing is that when I'm working, I've been putting money away. So whenever I did have problems with my Crohn's, like I have at the moment, I have to live on the money that I save because all I get is statutory sick pay from my company. And the thing is that the amount of money that we're paying out for welfare. I mean, they lifted the 2-child benefit cap. We're now giving money for mental health. I mean, it's just ridiculous. There doesn't seem to be any sort of. They don't think about the consequences to the policies that they're implementing.
No, I mean, this was decided some years ago, wasn't it, when mental health illnesses were put on a par with physical or mental disability, or as they would term it. It was put on the par with physical disability. And in some cases, I do agree that being mentally unwell is a bar to work, right? It is. It just is. There are people who have severe depression, they have severe anxieties, they just can't go out to work. And my worry is that there of course there are people who are swinging the lead, right? There are people saying, I've got anxiety, I can't work, right? And we know that they're making it up, but we can't prove it because there's no scan for lying, or there's no scan for anxiety to prove or disprove it. But those people are ruining it for everybody else.
Sorry to butt in, but surely you would have evidence. I mean, I've got so much evidence relating to myself, and I've sent them details relating to the evidence to myself and specialist consultants and stuff, and still not got any help. So I just sort of give up and go, well, it's just pointless me trying. So the thing is,
see, I don't understand that, because that's
tell me.
yeah, I don't understand that, because if you need PIP to support, I mean, that's supposed to support you having a normal life, right? It's supposed to support you if you need to go to work, or you need different transport, and in your case it would be to take care of you, if you had to take everyday things, really. Yeah, the cost of the disease, what the disease is costing you, is what you're supposed to be given money for. Why have they refused you? Do you know?
I've got the actual on the last one I've received. They basically grade you out of 10, and they grade you on different things, basically.
Like what?
And I couldn't get anything on mobility. I've got the I'm in the kitchen at the moment. I've got the piece of paper upstairs. If you want me to actually read it to you, and then you could actually listen to what they actually have graded me on.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting because I don't know what these PIP assessments are, what they look like. If you don't mind going upstairs.
No, I don't mind at all. No.
Oh, good man. That's what I like. Give you a bit of exercise as well on your way there, Tristan. I'm helping you. I'm helping.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course you are.
Yeah, of course I am. Of course I am.
So I go and get my vape as well.
Yeah, why not? Might as well. But the thing is that I think this is the problem with the system, is there are so many people scamming it that decent people who need it don't get it. And
the thing is, this is over the phone, so no one's actually come to assess me.
What?
Well, no one's come to assess me. Thank you for claiming personal dependence payment. PIP is made up of 2 parts, with daily living needs and help with mobility needs. So we've looked at your claim and decided at this time we cannot award you PIP to help with your mobility needs. Blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, and they basically said washing and bathing, you scored 2. Managing your toilet needs, you scored 2. Dressing and undressing, you scored 2. Communicating, 0. Reading, 0. Mixing with other people, 0. Budgeting decision, 0. Planning and following the journey, 0. Moving around, 0. Basically.
So basically, somebody on the phone asked you, can you get dressed?
Preparing food, 0. Eating and drinking, 0. Managing your treatment, 0.
What did you? Okay, so if those things you can manage, what were you asking for PIP for?
Well, I was basically saying it because I'm in a lot of pain at the moment and discomfort, and it is making things difficult. But the problem is that I said, I'm honest. So I said, even though I'm in pain, I'm still doing things.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not, and that's the problem.
Yeah, you don't know the system, because if this is over the phone, you could literally lie about anything, and a lot of people do.
Yeah, but the thing is that I physically can't do that.
No, I couldn't either.
End of the day, yes, I am in pain, but the thing is I like to have a tidy house. I like to have, I like to look after myself and do, even though if it causes me pain, because I'm in a lot of pain.
Yeah, you're still going to have a shower, right? You're still going to get dressed.
Yes, absolutely. So,
but what they want is for you to be literally on your belly, just, not eating, not drinking, not doing anything, and then you might get a little bit of help. Yeah.
And the thing is that I'm sure there's loads of people that are happy to just lie about that, and that's it. And the thing is, as I said, I do have, I don't know if people are lying about things. Surely they've got to have the evidence from your general practitioner or your specialist or your actual consultant.
Well,
I don't understand how people could still get given, these sort of benefits. I mean, these are, this is a lot. You can get a lot of money. If you're giving the full quota, we're talking, £1,500, £2,000 altogether for
a month.
Everything. Yeah.
Wow. The people who know the system, I mean, maybe the first instance. You see, I can't believe they just do it over the phone.
I can't believe they just do it over the phone either.
But would they, if they had awarded it to you, would they then say, right, we think we'll take you on to the next stage in the interview process?
But that's the thing is, when I put it in, I gave them the exact name of my specialist and my consultant and the hospital that I'm at, and I sent them details about letters and and all that kind of stuff. So they've been given the information there, but because I manage my illness, it's basically because I manage
it's
my
because you manage
well,
it, yeah.
And I don't want to sit on my backside and do absolutely nothing. That's basically it. So I'm basically got to deal with it all myself. So luckily, when I'm working, I do put money away. So that's sort of what I'm living on at the moment, apart from the statutory sick pay that I get.
Yeah, I mean, it really does seem, doesn't it, that you've got to know you've got to know how to play the system, and I wouldn't be able to do that either.
But the thing is, I don't, how many people are playing the system, and how many people are getting all this money?
Well, I mean, when you're looking at a population of, 70 million odd, you've got 10 million disabled people. I mean, come on. Really?
There you go.
That seems quite high, doesn't it?
And I also have autism. I'm a high functioning autistic, which I also have been diagnosed for that. So, but as I said, I think it's basically, if I said, I can't do this, I can't do that, and I basically, lied, because that's what we're talking about here, is being honest. If I lied then about absolutely everything, then, because you don't get an assessor or anything come along.
That's incredible. And then you just get the money.
You just get the money.
Well, thank goodness there are some honest people in the country, Tris, and I'm grateful for you. Even if you're suffering, I'm sorry about that. But that it is skewed, though, isn't it? It just isn't fair, and I do worry it's going to get harder for people like you. The more people that lie, or the more people that pile into the system.
I've been brought up to not lie, and I've been, and that's how I've been brought up. So the odds of, unless I was absolutely at desperate death's door, then it goes against everything that I know. So I probably wouldn't lie.
Same with me. Same with me. I couldn't bear it, actually. I'd be worried about getting caught as well. I have such a guilt complex about everything. Tristan, great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. I've got to go to a quick break, but I'll be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And we're talking this morning about the Tories launching a disability benefits review to cut the welfare bill by £23 billion, which actually, compared to the whole bill, isn't very much. I mean, it's a lot of money, and it would go into the defence budget, according to Kemi Badenoch. But it's the entire budget is 333 billion. This represents nearly a quarter of all of government spending. So you'd think to cut 23 billion, I mean, you know, that's not much in that huge, great big budget, is it? But still, people will have to pay. Somebody has to pay. So I mean, that's just the end of it, right? The country needs defending. We have no air defence. We have barely any navy. We have absolutely, you know, barely any tanks, barely any soldiers. We've got nothing. We are an embarrassment. We are as weak as we have ever been. In fact, we are the weakest we have ever been in terms of defence, because we're relying on our neighbours to help us. And our entire budget currently is 64 billion a year, which again sounds like a lot of money, but kit is expensive, right? 5 billion of that, by the way, goes into upkeeping Trident, nuclear deterrent. So there's not an awful lot of money sloshing around. So somebody's going to have to pay. Now, either it's you and me in higher taxes, which is the easy way, and it's Labour's preferred way. We know that, right? Tax and spend. Need I say more? That's what Labour is famous for, tax and spend. So they keep spending and they keep taxing, but nothing is getting any better. Nobody's feeling any better for it. But what Kemi's doing is we're going to go after welfare. We're going to take it from people with ADHD and anxiety, and that'll save us 7 to 9 billion. We're going to, you know, try and get people back into work. We're going to do assessments and check people more often. And all of those things to make sure that people aren't scamming the system. But I just want to know who should pay, because somebody's going to have to. It's either going to be the NHS, it's going to be, you know, it won't be net zero, because we know that is, you know, the baby of the Labour Party. Will it be welfare? Will it be the NHS? Will it be what? What can we cut? Pensions? There'd be such a pushback on pensions as well. I mean, look what happened when he took away the winter fuel allowance. So there is a real issue with money in this country, and it whatever happens, and I'm not sort of saying that a cut is inevitable, but I think it is inevitable on welfare. I genuinely do. And I think that it's also inevitable that the welfare bill will go up and up and up and up. So what do we do? How do we do it? How do we pay for the defence of this country? Because I think it is something that we have to consider, that we need to do now. The state of the world at the moment. And you know, defence is my thing. And I'm not given to hyperbole or panic or, you know, making you all get scared of something not to be scared of. And I don't want you to be scared, but we ought to be aware that it might only be 2 or 3 years before we need to defend this country, and we're not going to be ready. And I'd rather be ready and it not happen, to act as a deterrent, in other words, than to not be ready and be wide open. So that's where I'm coming from. I just want to read you this from Aaron, because I'd like your response to this. Aaron has said, if government stopped wasting so much money, we would be okay, and do away with net stupid zero. Stop giving all the money to illegals, give them a tent like France, and they should be happy with it. Also, don't be taking people off welfare, but give one flat rate that people could get by on, and do away with all this sickness and PIP. This is the bit I want you to comment on. Why does a disabled person need more money? Yes, if they need equipment to help them live, give them a grant, but not thousands every month. So if you are disabled, perhaps you could give me a call and explain to me and to Aaron as to why, if you are disabled, you do need more money. Now, I think I know the answer to that, but it would be good to hear from you as to why you might need more money than somebody who is able-bodied. So give me a call on that, 0344 499 1000, and you can text as well if you don't fancy a call. Put the word talk and then your message to 87222. I'm going to take a break here. and then come back and talk to Anne in Epsom.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, good morning to you. It is Petrie here until the top of the hour, and we're talking about health benefits because Kemi Badenoch is suggesting that to make the benefit system fair and affordable again, that she wants to cut £23 billion off the welfare bill on disability benefits specifically. So I'm just wondering if you think that that is the right decision, and if it isn't, then where do we cut, or do we just tax people more, because those are the options. And as Alison just pointed out, you're absolutely right, Alison, the lion's share of the welfare bill is on pensions, and that is because we've got an ageing population, so that bill is set to get bigger and bigger, which is why it's being suggested that the triple lock be abandoned and replaced with something else. So we would be taking money from the old in order to pay for the defence budget. So the lion's share is in pensions, income support 28%, disability and health 23%, and child benefit and other is between 6 and 9%. So it is the lion's share. It's 48 to 55%, and that is growing. That is something we can't stop people getting older, right? Only one thing can do that, and we don't want that to happen either. Anne is in Epsom. Hello, Anne.
Hello, Petra. Thank you for taking my call.
You're so welcome.
All it is, I don't know if you're agreeing with me, but the thing is, you know, I suffer from anxiety and depression, and it's the most awful thing. You know, a lot of people can't work with it. I mean, I'm over the age now. But the thing is, we've been sending money to, say, Africa, Pakistan, Ethiopia for years. And I mean, we've been sending, I think it's billions, I'm not 100% sure. But why, instead of sending money and it's still the same after all these years, why don't they just get, you know, people to go over there, give the women who are having babies all the time, give them the contraceptive jab, and then the money that we've been spending, use that for defence?
Well, I mean, there are a couple of issues with that. If you're suggesting forcing the contraceptive jab on women, that is clearly that would be the wrong thing to do, to force somebody to have the contraceptive jab. And also they do have babies, but not just because of a lack of contraception, but also because a lot of those babies die. So, and they've got no welfare system, they've got no pension system, so they rely on children to look after them in their old age. It's a cultural necessity. So I I know what you're saying in the ideal world, but then if you deprive women from having children by injecting them with a contraceptive, then they've got no one to look after them when they're old, and so they just die. So you're putting somebody to death, really, with that contraceptive.
But then again, when you think about it, they're showing this on telly, and half these African children starving.
Yeah, no, and Africa is one of the most wealthy countries in the world. I completely get it. I mean, they've got more minerals and oil, but the corruption is to blame for that. And the reason that we would step into a country that is apparently rich but doesn't support its own people is because of a humanitarian aim. It's because we're thinking, well, just because their own people are stealing their money doesn't mean that they should all just drop down dead, which is what would happen.
No, I agree with that. But I do think that we should, for once, think of our own people in this country.
But with so much, I mean, look, I get it, but we are so much better off. You know, no one is going to die for want of a child helping them when they're old, right? No one has to walk in this country for days on end just to get a vaccine. We are so much better off and wealthy than they are.
I understand what you're saying, but why has it taken all these years when we're literally sending billions, and they're all still the same, the countries? They're they're saying, oh, they're going to have to walk a mile to get some water. Well, what's happening to the money that we're sending out there?
Well, I mean, like, I completely, again, I understand exactly where you're coming from, and it's a very difficult one to answer, but you've got to understand as well with the foreign budget, the foreign aid budget, is it's not just about throwing brown envelopes at countries. It is soft power. It is also designed to prevent even more mass movement of people and, migration claims and asylum claims and all of those things. And just look what's happening with Ebola. You know, that is almost certainly a direct result of America pulling out all of their aid, and that nobody saw that Ebola coming, and now it could spread to, it's unlikely to, but it could spread around the world. And that's the other thing that foreign aid is supposed to do. And also our foreign aid budget, which used to be about 12 billion a year, it is now, sorry, say again? It's now reduced, I think. Set at 13 billion, having dropped from over 14 billion. And some of that is spent on housing the migrants that are in the country. So we take the money from that budget to pay for them.
Why are we housing these migrants that come over on these boats, and yet we've got our soldiers who've fought, and then they're on the streets? What is going on?
Again, I see that completely and utterly, and there is a disparity. There really is, but we do have an international obligation, and we would have to get out of that obligation. I mean, that's the only answer, really, to do it, to legally refuse people. We'd have to get out of the legal obligations that we have to refugees and asylum seekers, because we do want to be a safe haven, right, to people who genuinely need it. And the problem is that it's the same as welfare money, isn't it? We don't know who genuinely needs it.
No.
Do you know what I mean? So,
but I'm sure we should have an obligation to the British people that are sleeping on the streets as well.
Yeah, I agree. But it really is only 13 billion. I could live on it, Anne. I'm sure you could as well. 13 billion. So even if we took the foreign aid budget back, it's a drop in the ocean.
Right.
It's literally, it's a drop in the ocean. It's 13 billion pounds.
So that would be no good for defence, no.
Well, it would help. That's the sort of budget that Keir Starmer is talking about. So we could double it to 26 billion. It's still short.
Yeah.
It'd still be short then. We'd still need to get money from somewhere else. But I completely understand your concerns, and I understand it looks like an easy fix just to cut something like that. But actually, at the end of the day, it would cost more to cut it probably than to keep spending it.
Yeah, got you. Oh, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right.
Love talking to you. You're very sweet. Thank you. I've got to take a break. Be back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you until the top of the hour, and we're talking about the Tories launching a disability benefits review to cut the welfare bill by £23 billion in order to put that money into the defence budget. And I'm asking you how we go about getting the sort of money that we need if we don't cut this budget. Andrew from Salisbury has said, for starters, if you're caught defrauding the welfare system, you should be cut off permanently from everything. And if you're a foreign national or asylum claimant, you should be deported or detained with no appeal if you've defrauded the system. Jan, the man from Blackburn, says, this just, honestly, at the end of it, it made me laugh. And you'll see why I felt guilty when I read through it. But it was quite funny at the end. So Jan, the man from Blackburn, I'm just coming through a 2-year disagreement with cancer. So I've not been able to work regularly. And I was turned down for PIP. I've had 3 major operations, 2 tumours removed. The first one was stage 4, 2 rounds of chemo, a round of radiotherapy, and have neuropathy in my hands and feet from chemo. I answer the questions honestly, so I don't qualify. I mean, that again is bonkers, isn't it? It took me by surprise, that last sentence. So yeah, I mean that's just madness to me that people living with cancer. I don't know. Right. yeah, here we go. We're talking about the budget, the defence budget, defence spending. We poked the bear, allegedly, for a political spin offences after 2 defence ministers resigned in a deluded effort to look in control. We're now in a position of total weakness militarily to the whole world as a result of the past 15 to 20 years of a lack of defence spending. It's ridiculous. He could change this. He's in the driving seat, meaning Keir Starmer, I believe. And thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that. So some of you are saying, look, there's got to be things that we can cut within the welfare budget, but just don't go after disability. And Aaron was saying, why do disabled people need more money than able-bodied people? And Christine is in Hertfordshire, hopefully to answer that question for me. Good morning.
Oh, good morning, Petrie. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Well, my health has not been very good. I've just recently come out of hospital and I really felt compelled to ring because when you're disabled, you had a lot more expenses. Like, for example, my legs are bandaged and I have bone-on-bone arthritis of one knee and I can hardly walk. So when I had to see the nurse, had my legs dressed 3 times a week, I had no alternative but to get a taxi because I can't physically walk due to the pain. So I think there's a lot of additional expenses. Until you become disabled, you don't always realise how expensive it is. Because when I was a young woman, I used to do volunteer and used to walk everywhere. And now I can hardly walk at all. And I noticed the expense, like at the weekend, if I had to have my legs dressed, it will cost me £17 each way for a short journey.
Because, that's the added expense.
A lot of expenses, you know. But
what about heating and stuff? I always think about that, the heating in the winter, and because if you're less active, right, you probably need more heating.
Yes, and of course I'm on storage heaters, so they're very expensive, and you're at home more, so you can't sit without heating. You need heating. But I think there's a lot of genuine disabled, and the few who have been, defrauding the system are making it very bad now for the genuine people. It's like when I come out of hospital, due to cutbacks, they said I couldn't have carers. They initially said I could have carers, and then I got the flu in hospital, and then they said, oh no, the senior manager, Hertfordshire, so we can't supply carers. And the social worker told me they had a lady in a wheelchair and she'd been denied. So I don't think it's as what they're making it out that the disabled people, it's very easy for them. I think it's more of a fight now than ever to get good care and to get the support you need.
How do you keep your place clean and tidy? And
well, I'm struggling, to be honest, because basically I suffer with a condition which makes it very hard, and it's really, really difficult. So you have a lower quality of life. And I think when I was younger, how I was volunteer 7 and 9 years for Heart Social Services, and then in your time of need, you don't get anything and you get treated with contempt. I even went to the local MP who tried to help, and sometimes if you're articulate, which I'm reasonably articulate, it goes against you.
It goes against you. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And what about cooking for yourself? And if you find it difficult to stand up?
I can't because I've got arthritis in my hands, which would mean it would be dangerous. So I can't sort of chop or carry a hot pan. So most of the time I either have to get a snack out or sandwich, stuff like that, buy a sandwich out. And so that's an additional expense. And again, for your nutrition, you can't always get healthy things. So when you're fit and well,
you can whiz about your life, but when things, even the environment, getting to places, and then I had to check if there's accessible, being very open air convenience, because a lot of the toilets I can't use, they're too low. So there's a lot goes on, and there's other people might need continence problem.
And they're expensive, right? Because I bought some of those for a friend of mine who had a prostatectomy.
Yes.
And they're really expensive.
Very, very expensive.
Yeah.
And yes. And again, things like people may have additional washing and all these things. So I think all these ministers need to perhaps, I mean, I'm only an ordinary person, but they need to talk to genuine disabled people, and then they would get a picture. Because I think a lot of people say, oh, these people, they've got a life of clover, but these benefits to help address these additional expenses which truly exist, you know?
Yeah, no, they absolutely do. I mean, it just takes just thinking about it, doesn't it? Just a bit. It's not just the carers, like you said. It's the incontinence stuff. It's the food that you can prepare yourself, which will be more expensive because you might have to buy something pre-made, and all of the extra heating in the winter, cabs to and from your hospital appointments. I mean, all of this is an extra expense that somebody who's able-bodied doesn't even think about that exists.
Yes, it's been lovely talking to you.
I'm grateful.
It's a good programme.
You are wonderful, and thank you for doing that, because that will at least educate a couple of people as to why people on disability benefits deserve more money than people who are not disabled. So there you go, Aaron. We've both learnt something. But also, you know, as Alison was saying, it's the pensions budget, which is huge part of the welfare state, and that is growing, and there's nothing we can do about that, apart from asking old people not to get old. So that's the only thing we can do with that. Martin's in Warwickshire. Martin, good morning. Hi, good morning.
Hello, Petra.
Hi. So talk to me about the where we can cut. Should we cut from pensions?
Well, when you said about the triple lock pensions, and other people have gone on about it, cutting the triple lock, they can cut the triple lock as far as I'm concerned, providing they give me the extra £50 the people that are born after 1951 are getting.
What?
Yeah, because people are born before 51, and the Tory government brought this in 2016. I get £50 a week less than a person that's younger than me on the pension, yet I've paid into over 40 odd years. I worked for 40 odd years, full stamp, even though I'd had road accidents and had gone back to work. I don't claim nothing. I even paid tax because I paid a company pension. I paid tax, but I don't get no benefits whatsoever, not one bit.
So, I mean, I didn't know that there was this disparity. What's the reason for it?
You can.
No, I'm gonna take your word for it. I mean, you know, but what was the reasoning for that?
I don't know. It was Cameron that brought it in 2016. I've been to my MP come on the door here. Labour. I don't vote Labour anyway. Even when I was a young man, I wouldn't vote for them. But I've done a letter back for her. She sent it to Pat McFadden.
Right, yeah, Work and Pension Secretary.
I wrote it myself. He's the Pensions Minister, isn't he?
Yeah.
I might as well have wrote one myself. I've had no reply whatsoever. Not one bit. But I'm not the only one. It's thousands of us that are getting cheated with the less pension thing, £50 a week less it is.
That's a lot.
Because it's £200 a month.
Yeah, that's £2,500 a year.
Yeah, and when you see all these other benefits, you'll see, come on, you'll be getting this on the thing there. All these people that claim benefits, these pension credit benefits and things like that, they get other things. It's all I had is £100 eating allowance, and that was only because there was a stink up over the pensions, and the Labour got it into that, we'll have to do something here, we will lose votes over this. And then,
so you don't qualify for any pension credits, even though you're on £200 a month less than people who are younger than you?
I paid nearly £2,000 tax last year, this last tax year.
And that's because you've got a private pension as well?
I paid into a company pension out of my wages, and the more hours I worked, the more hours I paid into the pension. It was basically, you've got to join a company pension, like, you know.
Yeah.
I'd have been better off, and like the people I work with, we'd have been better off if we never went to work.
That's just crazy, isn't it?
If we'd have never went to work, I had a brother that was out of work in the 90s under Tony Blair's government, Labour. He was out of work. I got him a job. He was a tool maker. He was a watchmaker.
Wow. That's a skill.
Yeah, I got him a job, and it was an inspection job where you went to different car factories and things like that, and you read a micrometer or inspect or thing like that. He went and had an interview with the guy, come back. I went to see him. I says, here's my car. I'm going on holiday. It's tax insured for you. It's a full tank of petrol for you. I'll see you when I come back. I was going on my week's holiday leave in September. He says, I'm not bothering with that job. I'll get as much money sitting at home. That's true, that is.
So this is where the unfairness comes in, and this is why you know, if working people are taxed more in order to pay for defence, there'll be more people going on to welfare, because a lot of people are saying, what's the point?
Yeah, I had a tax bill from the Inland Revenue. They've stopped it straight away. Mine was only £100, but other people I've worked with, one had got a bill for £900, and a friend of mine, he got another bill for 300 odd quid. We don't know what it's for. They've just took the tax off us. So my eating allowance, what I had for 100 quid, that's the tax ones had that.